This time we'll call together the regular city council meeting for October 9th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. City Clerk Deaton, please let the roll call show that all council members are present this evening. And we'll move on to the approval of the minutes, September 25th, 2023. Councilmember Mosier.
I will move the minutes as presented.
I'll support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the bills. Councilmember Mosier.
I'll move the bills as presented.
I'll support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Approval of tonight's agenda. Councilmember Dill.
I'll move the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Tonight's consent agenda is resignation of Judy Keeling from the Housing Commission. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you to Ms. Keeling for her continuous effort in our community. And now for some real fun stuff. We have a special presentation this evening from Congresswoman Slotkin's team, as they will be presenting the city of South Lyon a flag that flew over the Capitol for our 150th anniversary this evening. So come on down, Katie. Thank you.
Hi, again, my name is Katie Michalski. I am the field representative here in Oakland County for Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin. One of the more enjoyable things about the job, actually, most of it's enjoyable, is celebrating moments like this. And so when the Congresswoman learned that it was the City of South Lyon's 105th anniversary celebration, she requested that this flag fly over the Capitol in honor of that milestone event. So I'm here to present it to you tonight. We do have an accompanying certificate that certifies that it was flown on August 21st of this year at the request of the Honorable Alyssa Slotkin. So
Excellent.
I'll present it here tonight.
Thank you. And if we could have just the team come down here really quick and do a picture. I'm going to have you take the lead here. How do you want to do
I'm
this?
going to have you hold the flag.
Okay.
How about I hold this?
Should we do it?
I like that. And then I can go get in the middle down here.
Yeah, with Katie.
Katie, you go down next to the mayor.
I'm the tall guy, so I'm going to be in the back.
Get some of these chairs out of the way. Sorry. We didn't really think this through. Sorry.
There you go.
There's a seat back here. We good?
Good.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So,
I'm going to take this right over to City Clerk Deaton right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for that. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address, and remember our 2-minute time limit. Our timer broke on us today, so I'll be using my cell phone, and we'll hope to have one for the next meeting. All right. If we don't have anyone for public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move on to the discussion of downtown with DDA Director Nate Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. First, I'll start off with talking briefly about the farmers market during Pumpkin Fest. From all reports, from what I heard from vendors and the market manager, it was incredibly successful. There were a number of vendors that sold out. When I was there early in the day on Saturday, there were a ton of people down there. So just more good news from the farmers market, which has kind of become the norm, which is great to see. I spoke with the businesses participating in the social district about Pumpkin Fest and how that went. They said it went very well. Again, they're able to have a lot of people around town that are participating in the social district. I also spoke with the police chief after Pumpkin Fest, and they mentioned that there were no incidents of people breaking the rules or that type of thing. So that's good to see as well. I have some not so great news, unfortunately. Late last week, we were notified that we did not get the revitalization and placemaking grant from the state that we applied with the other Main Street Oakland County communities. There was one community in Oakland County that received funds out of that. It was Auburn Hills. The rest went elsewhere. So, and then finally, after 2.5 years, I have completed the Michigan Professional Downtown Manager credential through the Michigan Downtown Association. So it was about 15 courses as well as a capstone project, but I'm just happy to have that done. So yeah, that's it for me. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
That's great, Nate. Congratulations
Thanks.
on that. Councilmember Dill, go ahead.
Thank you. A couple things. When we get grant, or when we don't get grants, do you get any kind of scoring or information on how we did compared to others or anything like that?
Yeah, so Main Street Oakland County has requested a meeting with the MEDC to see where our application was lacking. They did that immediately after the notification that we were unsuccessful, so they'll be sharing that feedback with us. I don't know if we technically weren't the ones that applied for the grant, so we were like the sub-grantees of Main Street Oakland County, so they'll share that feedback with us once they
Okay.
have it.
That's awesome. And congratulations on your certificate completing the course. That's awesome. And then there was quite a bit of conversation online about the electric vehicle chargers. So I just wondered if you could reiterate how those are being paid for and what investment does the city have in that?
Yeah, so those are paid for entirely by the company that's putting them in place. The only thing the city is doing is providing the space for the chargers to go. So,
No taxpayer dollars are going
Correct.
towards the chargers.
correct,
Thank
no
you.
taxpayer dollars are going towards the
Wanted to make
chargers.
sure
Yep.
that was on record. All right, that's all. Oh, and then the last thing was, oh, never mind. Forget it. Thank you.
Councilmember Kibble.
I think, you're talking about the farmer's market down there and how successful that was. I think that's really a call that we should have more festivals during the course of the summer so that they can sell out every weekend. So we'll just close down Pontiac Trail. Think about it.
Okay.
Anyone else got anything for Nate tonight? Councilmember Hanson?
Well, actually, you were first.
Go ahead. What, Councilmember Kurtzwell?
I do want to let you know that I did speak with two businesses, and they had the same experience of the restaurants that I spoke to out in Saugatuck, and that was that the social district provided almost doubled their sales when it came with respect to the alcohol. So obviously the social district is working. It is assisting those businesses there in the downtown area. They absolutely loved it. They couldn't keep up. I spoke, one was David over at the winery. I mean, he said it was an incredible day. Absolutely incredible day. So I think we're on the right track with the social district with Sidecar. And once again, I want to thank you for all the incredible work you did, because it was just a great weekend. I mean, if that was the weekend to test the social district, it was the weekend of Pumpkin Fest, and it came out, really well. So thank you.
Thanks.
Councilmember Hanson?
I wanted to congratulate you on completing that program. That sounds pretty extensive, and I can only imagine how that's going to help us in the future, especially. I did want to ask, with us kind of like, well, I was scraping off my windshield this morning, and it occurred to me that, we're kind of dying down to the, outdoor farmers markets and, kind of switching over to the indoor farmers markets. Is there, are there discussions starting to be had as far as like maybe next year, what to kind of implement changes to make things even better, or maybe even expand it further, or, kind of giving it some thought as far as 2024? I wasn't sure if that was something you wanted to.
Yeah, so the market manager and I speak pretty much on a daily basis, and we've had multiple conversations about how we could improve the market next year, some of the policy changes that we want to make for the vendors to, make things better for them, but also probably improve our marketing, because I think that's something that, we can always improve upon there. So,
Thank you, and congratulations again.
thanks.
All right, thanks for the update, Nate.
Thank you.
Move on to the fire chief report with Chief Thorrington.
Mayor, council, good evening. We just broke 1,000 runs. We're at 1,004 as of today. We've got a ton of firefighters putting in a lot of hours out at the burn boxes right now, the burn containers, for everything from painting to welding, cutting holes in the floor, building stairs. So it's pretty extensive, and it's being done by the firefighters, which is saving us a lot of money. It also speeds things up a little bit. We're not waiting for vendors. So, also Alta Equipment Company out of New Hudson, they donated their time and their vehicle, their front end, or I guess big loader, to put the 2 boxes from the ground up on the 2nd floor. It was pretty huge. We gave an escort from New Hudson and back, so it was interesting, but it was a lot of time and equipment that they donated. We appreciate that. Hadley's Towing, again, just brought out 2 vehicles for extrication training. We're going to have tomorrow at the burn containers. They're out there on the gravel pad next to it. They volunteer the driver's time. They drop it off, we cut it up, and they pick it up and take it back, and it's all a donation by them as well, so we appreciate that. We did hire a new cadet, a Southline East High School student, Travis Eversole. We had another one apply today, so hopefully we have another high school student. It would give us 4, which is about our max. We promoted 2 firefighters to sergeant, Bob Simmons and Eric Mancha. And unfortunately, we're losing one of our good ones, Eleanor Shipley. She had a full-time job from our career department, and many career departments do not allow you to also work part-time. So she was trying to do both, and it didn't work out, but she will be missed. She was firefighter of the year last year, puts in tons of extra time for us, so she'll be missed dearly. But we are happy for her. She's moving on to her career. We did submit an application for a state grant for the first responders and EMS jackets. It's a 1-to-1 match for the city. So, and while Katie's here, I'd like to thank her. She's been very supportive since I've been in the office. She's stopped in a couple times. She's given me a list of potential grants we could apply for, so it's been very helpful, and thank you. That's all I have.
Anyone got anything for Chief?
Just real quick.
Councilmember Dill,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to say I saw some of your team, and Eleanor was one of them, during Pumpkin Fest, and it was so hot. And both the fire department and the police department, and what you guys have to wear, and what they had to haul around to take care of some of the people that were overheated and that were having some medical incidents. So it was really, I just wanted to thank you and, pass that on to your team. What a great job.
Thank you. I will. I'll pass it along.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Chief, are we back up fully stocked on the carbon monoxide detectors and the smoke detectors?
No, it's a process, unfortunately. It's going through the bidding process right now, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have them, but shouldn't be too far out.
Great, thanks.
So, yep.
Councilmember Kibble.
In the fire, or the Pumpkin Fest, there was a couple of people that ended up falling down in the, at the farmer's market. There's like a little hole in the driveway, and, I took some red paint and put a circle on it, but still, your guys, I think, attended to 3 people that had fallen in that, so.
It was a busy afternoon, for sure.
Well, it was really great.
Yeah.
I was grateful that they were as close as they were to be able to attend to them, so that worked out well.
Yeah, for sure.
So now, Paul, we need to end up fixing that hole. So, all right. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks for the update, Chief.
Thank you.
Move on to the police chief report with Chief Baki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Just got a few things today. So during the, just want to touch base on it, there were some rumors going on around a vehicle that just prior to the parade starting and the runners going off for the parade event, that there was a vehicle that had gotten through a barricade. Well, we were able to successfully stop the vehicle. There was no injuries, no accidents, and that driver is going to be charged with a misdemeanor crime of failure to obey a police officer's signal. So, and there still may be charges pending after that. So no one was hurt. There was no damage. We were able to stop him successfully. It took about 30 seconds, maybe about a minute, and then the runners were able to go off. So there was a slight delay, but we were able to stop that. The events that happen when it comes to social district and the South Lyon Live event, we had no issues with the social district. The cups, people with their cups coming in and no one coming out, they all were doing very well, and there was no issues with that. So we were pleased to hear that. I was able to talk to Chuck Platter, who was pleased with that as well. So we're happy to say that there was no issues with the social district. We did get a new Dodge Durango. That was going to be for the admin vehicle. Unfortunately, we had one of our vehicles flooded out during the major flood events of the 23rd and 24th of August. So I'm going to reallocate that vehicle to the patrol division to put that in to replace that other vehicle that flooded out. I spoke with Patricia and also MMRMA. We did get funds back from that vehicle, and we're also put in some request for the state of emergency, so we get the deductible off that as well. So I want to make sure that we have enough patrol vehicles in our fleet to ensure that we can provide services to the public. Also, I did get back some information on the grant that I put in for the training funds for our leadership course for our new sergeant, and I'm still waiting on confirmation for those funds. And that's all I got.
Anyone got anything for Chief tonight? Well, I just have a big thank you for you. I set the family up for Pumpkin Fest Parade over here by admin and then huffed it down with my coffee and caught up with Chief, and he let me jump in that F-150 and ride shotgun. And I don't know if you guys know, but every time you hit that horn, you get a different siren. Chief didn't let me play with it though. But thanks,
I had to
Chief.
slap his hand away a little.
No, that was very memorable for me, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you.
Yep.
So
My pleasure.
If no one else has anything for Chief, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we're going to have our friends from Plant Moran come up and do our audit presentation. Is there anything you guys need from me over there? You guys good to go? Okay.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. We appreciate you having us here tonight to talk about the financial statement audit and the results of that audit for the year ended June 30, 2023. So my name is Tim St. Andrew, and with me is Philip Femininio. And before we get into the deliverables, I did want to take the opportunity to first thank Paul and Patricia. So we start this audit really back in June, July when we start planning for it, but we're here on site starting in early August, and so it's usually a 6 to 8 week process. As always, everything was in great shape. Your team was ready to go, so we certainly appreciate their help throughout the entire process. So our plan here is to cover the presentation that you should all have a copy of in front of you. So it includes a brief executive summary, a few financial graphs, and then some of the required communications that we have to have with you, the city's governing body. Okay. So I'll start with the executive summary. So on pages 1 through 3 of the financial statements, you'll see our auditor's report letter. That's really the only 3 pages in that 68-page packet that belong to us. The rest is the city's financial statements. But you'll see on the top of page 1 that we did issue an unmodified opinion. And so that is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide. So it means that the numbers, the disclosures within the statements are materially accurate, and the readers, the users, can rely on them. The general fund balance did decrease $1.2 million this year from $7.3 million last year to $6.1 million this year. The fund is financially sound still. Of that $6.1 million, $5.7 million of that is unassigned. And even though there was a fund balance decrease of $1.2 million, the budget was actually to use $1.5 million. So overall, the city actually had a $337,000 favorable budget variance when compared to actual. Now, the city does continue to invest in its infrastructure, spending $5.1 million in 2023, and that mainly related to one place in the fire truck and the service. And so that was $1.5 million of that. And then there were the city hall, the DPW complex building improvements, and utility system improvements. And speaking of improvements, so for future capital improvements, the capital projects fund does have $2.1 million at the end of the year for that future spending. There was a scheduled debt paydown of $1.67 million in 2023, and the city did issue the $7.5 million for the road bonds. Skipping down to the last bullet point here, the millage related to those bonds, you'll start to see that in the 2024 financial statements, because that was first levied just this past July 1st, and so that's the 2024 revenue. And lastly, the Water and Sewer Fund did have an operating loss of $580,000 this year. Now that does include depreciation, which is a non-cash expense, and so if you were to add back depreciation, there would have been a positive operating income in the Water and Sewer Fund this year. So with that, I will invite Phil up to discuss the financial slides.
Thank you, Tim. So the first slide we'll start out with is looking at your general fund revenue for the past 4 years. So as you can see, from 2020, it was about 6.6 million to about 8.3 million. And just in the past year alone, it increased about 500,000, mainly due to property tax revenue increasing from the increase in taxable values of the properties, as well as there was also an increase in your state shared revenue that you received, as well as recognizing a little bit of the ARPA funding that you did receive. So about 200,000 of that was recognized this year. The rest of that ARPA funding is still going to be spent, but so as of year end, it's on your balance sheet as unearned. The next slide we have here, we like to show just the collection of property taxes and kind of how that breaks out amongst all the different taxing authorities. So showing that the city collected about 19.5 million in taxes, but of that only about 36% goes to the city. The rest goes to either the schools or Oakland County or the state education. So just kind of showing that of all the collections, only about 36% relates to the city. So the next slide, and you'll see the big increase here, this is the general fund expenditures. So you'll see it went from 7.1 million to 9.4 million. And this was expected due to the fire truck. So the fire truck was placed in service this year, so the full amount of the expenses, or 1.5 million of that, was expensed this year. So that's included in part of your increase, as well as actually the payments. You'll see your debt service was $0 for the past couple of years, but you had the installment purchase on the fire truck, so there's about 500,000 of that. And that really relates to two payments just due to the timing of the payments. There was one payment made in early July, and then one payment made at the end of early July of 2023, or 2022. And then one payment made at the end of June 2023. So you're actually seeing two payments, and if you look at your financial statements, you'll see you're due within 1 year on the fire truck is actually going to be $0 as you've already made that payment. Other than that, there was some increase for roads. Some of the road improvement projects expenses are also showing up. And we'll go into a little more detail on the fire truck accounting in a couple slides just to kind of show a little comparison there. The next slide we have here, though, is the general fund balance compared to annual operating expenditures. So we like to look at the unassigned fund balance, as Tim mentioned, which was about 5.7, and compare that to your annual operating expenditures. And this year that was about 60%, which we would consider to be very healthy for the city. So that's, if no other revenues or sources came in, you had about 5.7 million, or 60% of your annual operating expenditures could be covered by that fund balance. So this is a new slide we added. We just like to kind of explain the fire truck accounting, because if you remember from last year, you had another financing source of about 1.25 million from that installment purchase on the fire truck. And usually you would see that in the expenses in the same period, but due to the fire truck not being able to be delivered till 2023, there was a separation. So we thought this would help show, if you look, you have your 1.25 million last year, which added to fund balance, which resulted in an increase in the general fund of about 1.9 million last year. When budgeted was only about 234,000. So really that additional revenue or other financing source was then counted in this year with when you have your 9.4 million of expenditures, or recognizing that full cost of the fire truck. And so that, as you can see, that resulted in a usage of fund balance of about 1.18 million this year, really kind of attributed to that fire truck. And if you were to normally in the same year, these would be recorded in the same year and really net themselves. And as Tim mentioned, there was an expectation to use about 1.5 million. So even though that use of fund balance of 1.18, that was less than budgeted. The next slide we have here is just the other governmental funds, showing those fund balances. And you'll see for most of them, they are fully restricted. such as major roads or your local roads are restricted by the Act 51 money that you receive on those. And the municipal street relates to the new debt that was issued. And so all that is restricted in, for future projects. And then your capital projects funds, those are all committed. So that's funds that have been transferred to those, are funding that's been transferred to those funds for future capital projects. This next slide we have is looking at the water and sewer fund. And what we're looking at here is the operating revenue plus your property taxes and comparing that to operating expenses. But we're excluding depreciation and then adding back capital improvements and debt service costs, which we're really trying to look at is more of the cash, like the cash that's coming in and compared to the cash expenses. That's why we're excluding depreciation, but including your amounts you're paying for future or paying on current capital projects. So you'll see, this year the revenue was about equal to the expenses, about 5.2 million, and in prior years you'll see the expenses were a little more, and that's just the timing of your capital projects for your, I know there's a big wastewater and treatment plant upgrade and work done in the past couple of years, so we would expect to see those expenses higher. But then some years, like in 2019, you'll see that the revenue was a little bit higher. That's building up the fund balance for those future projects. And then just the final graph we would like to look at here relates to the legacy costs. We're looking at the pension and the OPEB. So the pension plan is about 62% funded, while OPEB is 42%. It's important to know for your pension, this is as of MERS year end, because that's when it's reported. So that's as of 12/31/2022, while your OPEB is as of 6/30/2023. So as of 12/31/2022, there was significant investment losses, and as a result, the funding percentage did drop several points. And we did want to point out, if you were to look at your MERS funding valuation, you would see that they state it's at 69%. So in the funding valuation, they do what's an asset smoothing approach. So where they take your investment gains and losses and they put it over 4 to 5 years just so you don't have these significant ups and downs. Whereas the GASB 68 and the statements will show it's required to be recorded at fair market value, so you have those significant up and downs. So that's why the MERS funding valuation would show it at 68%. And really that funding valuation number is just used to help determine contributions that are required for the future years and to try to prevent that from having significant ups and downs, increases and decreases. So they kind of smooth those investment gains and losses over 4 to 5 years. And then just the other thing we want to point out on this slide is just pointing out that the OPEB 3 years ago was 0% funded, and now it's all the way up to 42. So we just like to show that's showing the commitment to addressing those legacy costs and being able to earn income on those contributions. Which as of 6/30, there was so slight income for the OPEB plan, so it kind of shows just the difference in timing with MERS being the 12/30, the pension being 12/31 and 6/30. There's a slight difference in the investment income. So now I'll pass it back over to Tim to kind of go through those charged with government's communication.
So this slide here is really just meant to summarize really the first 3 pages of the supplemental letter that you have all received. And like I mentioned in my opening comments, the audit, it went really well this year. So I won't go through all of these, but I'm happy to say there were no internal control deficiencies identified. As you can see up here on the slide, there was no transactions entered into lacking guidance or entered into in the wrong year. We had no disagreements with management. We do mention 3 estimates that are included in the financial statements, and so that would be the unbilled water and sewer receivable, and then the pension and retiree healthcare liabilities that Phil just talked about. We were able to obtain information, whether it be billings subsequent to year end for the receivable or actuary reports, just to get comfortable with those estimates, and we were able to get comfortable. And the last slide here is really covering pages 4 through 6 of the letter. If you haven't read it, I would encourage you to read it. It has a couple recommendations that we had that did come out of the audit, and then information on federal grants, new accounting policies, cybersecurity, other things that might be of interest to you. So with that, I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Councilman Kurtzwell.
Thank you. I always look forward to this meeting. It's always such an informative meeting, and Plant Moran does a great job. So I want to thank you for the time commitment that you make to the residents and residents watch this. They want to know where their money's going. So thank you for taking the time. I'm going to start on the supplemental letter, and I'm looking at page 3. I just had a question on the corrected and uncorrected misstatements. The statement is, management has corrected all such misstatements. Is that just a line that you put in, or was something found to be in error that needed to be corrected?
Yeah, so we have, as we go through the audit, really there's two kinds of entries that we may find. One would be an adjusting, where there was an error identified, we need to fix it, or there's a reclassifying, where it's doesn't impact the bottom line, but we need to get it to the right spot on the financial statements. So we did have one or two reclassifying journal entries that were, again, it's more classification to make sure that it's put in the right spot on these financial statements.
So it wasn't a case of a missing entry. The issue was it wasn't titled appropriately to go wherever it needed to go.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right, so that takes care of that. Why are we monitoring our lease activity? This is on Gatsby statement number 87. I'm only aware of one lease that we have in the city for property, and that's for the spaces that we lease here. Maybe there's another lease somewhere, but I think the city only has one lease.
Yeah, and this comment's really getting at future leases, because the city would have implemented GASB 87, which puts leases on your balance sheet last year. So this comment is more or less, if you enter into any future leases, just keep in mind the lease terms and conditions so we can make sure that we can evaluate appropriately under this existing accounting standard.
And what are you reporting on the lease? I mean, why is it actually a Gatsby sort of issue on the lease? If it's just a matter of here's what you pay and here's the terms.
So that's under the old rules. That would have been that easy, as here's what you pay, and as you pay it, we would expense it. Now, GASB requires an asset be put on your balance sheet and then an offsetting liability, and those two actually get amortized differently depending on those terms and conditions, and certain leases get scoped in, certain leases get scoped out, so I'd say they made it overly complex to account for leases, but it's just the world we live in and the rules we have to live by, so if and when the city enters into new leases, it's just a reminder to make sure that we do that property valuation.
Okay. I'm also looking at GASB 101, compensated absences. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so that's a new standard that comes out, I think in the city's 2025 year end.
Yeah, because that's a new one.
And so, and I'm sure the city hasn't gone through that evaluation yet. We have had a few communities that have early implemented, and we haven't really seen much of an impact on how it's compared to GASB 16 right now, I believe, and how that liability gets recorded. So I wouldn't imagine there's going to be much of an impact, because right now you have the cap and you record that liability up to the cap. And I believe the new standard, it's pretty close to that, but there are communities out there that do it a little bit differently, because there are really two or three ways now to do it. But as the city is doing it now, I wouldn't imagine a significant impact, if any impact.
So what exactly are they talking about when they talk about a compensated absence?
Sick, mainly sick and vacation.
That are compensated if you don't take them?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I also read in here that, I can't quite recall where, but that the city is holding a lot of money in its bank accounts, and of course, not everything is insured. And you seem to express some concern over, the money not necessarily being in secure accounts. So what is your solution?
I wouldn't say it's a concern necessarily. It's just, it is a required disclosure to show what's insured and uninsured. And I would say the vast majority of communities would have mostly uninsured, because you only get up to that $250,000 per type of account. So you may have a deposit account or a checking account. One solution that some communities have gone with would be the Cedars accounts, which are really, you may give it to a bank and they invest $250,000 in 10 different banks, and so now you're up to $2.5 million of insurance. So that is an option that some communities have taken. Again, you also evaluate the banks that you bank with, and part of that is getting comfortable that they are going to be around in 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, and so that does take some of the risk off the table that you have uninsured deposits.
Okay. Next I wanted to, oh, it's actually on page 27 in the notes. I think that's note 3. It's right here in front of me. Now I'd like to go to note 2 and would just like to hear a little bit of discussion on construction code fees. I wasn't quite sure how to interpret this. Are you saying in this note that construction fees now are to be held by the city sort of like in the form of a trust and only can be used for limited purposes?
No, this is required to be disclosed, and it's really meant to look at, so mainly permit revenue, so building permit revenue, looking at your revenue compared to your cost. And this is telling you that cumulatively over, I think this is since the year 2000, you have a $965,000 shortfall, meaning that your expenses have exceeded your revenues over those 23 years. If that were to be a positive number, then you'd have to restrict it. So if your permit revenue exceeded your cost, you'd have to set that aside for those permit-related activities. It'd be separated in your financial statements. But you and 99% of the communities in the world, this would be a shortfall.
So they're looking at it from a cumulative
This is-
perspective. They're not looking at it from a year to year.
No, so if you were to look at last year's statements, you'd see your ending would have been the $999 that you started with. So this year you actually had a $33,000 surplus. But cumulatively, you're almost $1 million shortfall.
So will there be a time when this number at some point will become positive? I mean, if we continue on a track where we are generating surpluses from our fees, will there come a time when that will average out and that number now will become positive?
I guess in theory it could. It's unlikely, I would say, because you're going to have your ups and downs, and when you have your downs, a lot of those costs are fixed, and so then you have you'll slide back to a shortfall. But yeah, I suppose if you have years like this where it's $30,000 in 30 years, you could eliminate that shortfall and start to see a surplus.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that. The next thing I wanted to ask, and it's actually my last issue, is our bond rating is pretty good. I think we have a AAA.
I think it's double.
It's double.
Is it double?
Yeah. It's
Double plus. Okay, so we're almost at a AAA, but we're at a double plus. What exactly does a city or a governmental entity do to gain a good bond rating? What's the criteria?
So I don't know all of the criteria that the rating agencies would look at, and I think that's intentional. They don't give away all of their secrets, but certainly they'd look at financial condition today. They'd look at financial trends to see where have you been and where are you going. They'd look at your current debt load and your ability, it's really through that financial condition and through the financial trends, your ability to service that debt today and then your ability to service the future debt. I would imagine they look at various socioeconomic issues within the city and then the broader region just to see what's going on. Is the area growing? Is it shrinking? Part of that, I think, being, is there potential for future growth? So again, looking at that financial condition, and if the trend is positive and the area is growing and it's all positive, I think that only works in the, a check in the plus column for the city. If they're seeing population shrinking and taxable property tax base shrinking, I think that's going to be a check in the negative column that could hurt you. So I don't know how they weight it, but I think I would imagine they look at all of those factors and more in making those rating decisions.
So then what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that some of the criteria that is being used to give the city its bond rating, some of it is not in our control as we sit here as city council. I mean, all we can do is handle the financial component of whatever that puzzle is. There's demographics going on that we can't control. I can't control whether the city loses population. I mean, I can't control that. I can't control whether I'm living in an area that has a lot of economic development. You know, I don't control Milford. I don't control Green Oak. I don't control Lyon Township. So I have very little control over input onto that bond rating. Is that kind of?
And that would be my opinion. I think there's certain things that they would rate that you do have some control over within the city, and I think I would agree with you that there are some things that are probably outside of your control that they would look at. Now, how they weight those factors, I don't know, but I would imagine they would look at all of that as part of the big picture to see where is the city going as they make that determination on your bond rating.
So from financial, one of the key components is that ratio between revenue and debt, is being able to service debt. What is the risk of investing or doing business in the city of South Lyon?
Exactly, yeah. Will the bondholders get their money back?
Get their money back.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've been very informative.
Of course. You're welcome.
Anyone else got anything?
We did pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, we have no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move on to new business number 1, purchase of John Deere Gator with plow.
City of South Lyon Water and Wastewater Department is requesting to purchase a new John Deere Gator with a snow plow. This will be replacing the current 2003 John Deere Gator. This UTV is essential to department operations, and it's used daily for maintenance, sampling, and groundkeeping. This is a budgeted item for the current fiscal year. This purchase will be made under the equipment replacement line of 642-979-910. And this item was available through My Deal as an itemized on the quote. We've attached the quote and an image of the item that you're actually purchasing, and tonight's possible courses of action are approve, not approve the purchase of the John Deere Gator with snowplow, model XUV 835M, through My Deal at a cost not to exceed $36,281.70 through account number 642-979-910. Ron Beeson, the superintendent, is here to answer any questions you may have regarding this purchase.
Councilman Kennedy.
Need to go ahead and make the motion to approve the purchase of the John Deere Gator, model XUV 835M with plow at the delivered cost of $36,281.70 under account number 642-979.910.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Mosier. Do we have any further discussion? Councilmember Hanson.
Just a quick question. Is this going to be received before winter snowplow this year?
We hope to get it next week.
Oh.
They had one in stock. This is a popular vehicle, actually. A lot of utilities purchase this particular model, and we had him search for one. He did find one, so we hope to have it soon.
Okay. That was all I had, Mr. Mayor.
We'll be here for winter.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, if no one else has anything, City Clerk Deaton, could you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Kibble?
Yes.
Mosier?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Weil?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Elchap?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. New business number 2 this evening, sanitary sewer evaluation.
As part of our multi-year plan to inspect or our infrastructure in preparation for road improvements, City has gone out for bid for a sanitary sewer inspection. The areas to be inspected as part of this project are locations that are on our radar for upcoming road paving projects and potentially sewer improvements, and were not part of previous evaluations done over the last 5 years. We've attached a letter from Mike Darger from HRC explaining the project, and the bid tab is attached. We received 2 bids and are recommended to hire DVM Utilities in the amount of $33,370.50. The funding for the project will come from Water and Sewer Professional Services account 592-557-801. The possible courses of action are approve or not approve the award of the sanitary sewer evaluation study to DVM Utilities in the amount of $33,370.50. From account number 592-557-801, Mike Darger is here to answer any questions you may have regarding this project.
Councilmember Kivel.
I was curious, was DVM in the bid package last year? I mean, $10,000 break is pretty helpful, so.
Yeah, they were in the package. These two guys both bid on the package several years ago. Pipe Tech had the contract, and they did the 4 quadrants.
Right.
So DVM's in town, currently working on the railroad bore, and they've done all the work in Hagedorn sub. So they're here and wanting to do work.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to
That's
take,
what I see.
yeah, $10,000 off the cost. That's really great. I'll make a motion that we approve the award of the sanitary sewer evaluation study to DVM Utilities in the amount of $33,370.50. Water and Sewer Professional Services account number 592-557-801.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kivell, supported by Councilmember Kennedy. Do we have any further discussion? City Clerk Deaton, could you please lead us in a roll call vote?
Bill?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Kurzweil?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Moser?
Yes.
Kibble?
Yes.
Alstad?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Thanks, Mike, for your time. With that, we'll move on to the budget this evening. Does anyone have anything on the budget? All right. We'll reopen the floor for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address, and remember our 2-minute time limit.
Judy Keeling, 62180 Arlington Circle. I'd like to say I'm sorry to the City Council that I've resigned from the Housing Commission. I just would like you to know that I just don't feel knowledgeable enough to be able to do this, and that the part that there isn't a lawyer there at our meetings to know all the legal ramifications of our decisions. I just don't want to make a mistake for the city. And but I will stay until they find someone else, and I'd like to thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keeling. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Councilmember Kibble.
Well, I was just curious, if she's resigned, do we still have the ability to let her be on the board?
That would be above my,
The question
I
would
mean,
be what the date of the resignation was. I'm not sure if that was actually specified within the motion. I don't believe it was, if it said effective immediately or effective. But we still do have enough people on that board to function properly. So even if she was not on that commission, they could still function.
thank you.
I mean, I think you don't have to end up being an expert at something to still be a good person to be on there to reflect things that somebody that doesn't have the full breadth, of information available. But nonetheless, I don't want us to get jammed up by something because there's somebody on the board that has resigned, I guess. So.
The floor's still open, yes, go ahead.
Linda Benson, 438 Washington Manor. And I'm on the Housing Commission. I wasn't aware, I know I had talked to Judy about her feelings, and so we do have somebody that's going to step up and apply. But on the other matter of the attorney, I've been assured by Premier Properties that their attorneys have insurance to cover any situation that would come up with the new apartment complex, rather than the city having to cover any issues. And I don't know if that's legal or not, but that's what I've been told.
Our insurance for boards and commissions do cover all
Okay.
boards and commissions, including the Housing Commission.
Okay. And I just didn't know if we had to have one of the city's attorneys available at each meeting.
We're not really supposed to engage, but I'll answer that question. We can when necessary. We don't necessarily have to have one at every single meeting.
Okay. And I think we've jumped through all the hoops possible so far. So I just want to thank everybody for all their help. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if we don't have anyone else for public comment tonight, we'll close the floor for public comment. We'll move on to the manager's report with City Manager Zelnick.
We will have on a future agenda the Washington Square PUD. That'll be coming up soon before council. We'll be getting you information on that prior to that meeting. We'll also have on council agenda purchase of the sound deadening materials at the pickleball courts at Columbia Park. The update on the Hagedorn Sanitary Sewer and Road Paving Project, it continues. They've already installed curbs within the development. They will begin removal of pavement along Warren Street and McCady Park. That work is expected to begin on October 23rd. And all this will be followed up with the paving of Hagedorn Sub as well as Warren Street and McCady Street parking lot. The CSX sanitary line, that continue to work on that site for the boring and installation of the sanitary sewer. The boring under the railroad track is actually expected to begin today, and they will be doing some late night boring that we've been granted approval for to continue the bore because they cannot stop the bore in midway going underneath the railroad tracks. That's not allowed, so they have to do a one continuous bore. The trail restoration project has been completed along from Princeton Road to Volunteer Park, so we're happy about that. There's going to be some roadway work on Pontiac Trail. Some improvements are going to be done near the high school. That'll begin on Friday the 13th, so we know that's going to work out really well that day. And so caution driving in that area because there will be some partial closings or shutdowns of the road that'll actually begin on Saturday and Sunday, so just be careful in that area. And I guess this is a couple real milestone meeting for me. Not only it's my 5-year anniversary with the city, but I think it's my first time as city manager where the Detroit Lions are actually in first place. So
We'll
and that's
take
all
it.
I have. Be happy to answer any questions
Thank
you have.
Anyone, go ahead, Councilmember Kennedy.
Since Mike's also here, do we have an update on where we stand on the columbarium over in the cemetery? They cited the location, taken the borings, yet made a decision on placement, anything?
Yeah, we've actually looked at the borings that were done by had Hubbard and Clark do them. The location of the better location of placing the columbarium are more towards the east of the south portion of that large open area. That is the area that's along the creek. As you get farther west, that the soils get worse as the topography changes. We've been actually reviewing and had several companies come in, reviewing their bids for different types of columbariums, round one, square one, octagon size, multiple levels, looking at different price lists. And matter of fact, we just had a meeting on it last Friday within the department. We're expecting to bring something before council very soon.
Councilmember Kivel.
Just to expand on that, are you talking about the area that's down by the path, the bike path? That
No,
part of it?
it's actually east or west of the where the plantings are, where the people do their gardens. So there's a large open area
Oh, it's
that's on
west
the
of that,
south
okay.
side,
That
the
little-
southernmost portion
Yeah,
of the
step up.
cemetery that's open. There are some wet areas, but the area you move farther to the east, it actually gets drier.
Okay.
Councilmember Hanson, and I'll come to you, Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Two quick questions regarding the Andover Park Bridge. With the removal happening next month, are they planning on install like in the spring after all the winter weather, or are they going to be able to work through that, or is it kind of like weather contingent?
Well, they will have to pour concrete, so they could potentially install the bridge, but then they will have to wait for concrete to be brought in. So my guess is that most of it will be done in the spring, but it's been ordered. It's within fabrication. People have called like, why is it taking so long? It is a couple $100,000 bridge. It's not something that we can just get somebody from Lowe's or Home Depot or Joe's Builder to actually do. But we're still waiting on that. We have checked it. We know it's within fabrication, so we'll update as soon as we get it.
Regarding the pickleball court sound deafening devices and whatnot, is the plan to purchase those in probably the next quarter and then just store them until spring?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Figured as much, but figured I'd ask.
Yeah, we don't really want to install them in the winter and not be used.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one question out of the audit, because it kind of pertains to you. It was talking about the Downtown Development Authority. It says the DDA does not issue a separate financial report. I was surprised to see that. Do they not state, like if I wanted to go in and see how they're doing on their events and take a look at that and take a look at their expenses, is there no summary that they're doing at all?
You can do that, but it is actually included within our audit. It's not a separate audit that's done. It's an audit because it's all part of the city, because it is ultimately approved by city council after adoption by the DDA board. So if you look at that audit, you will see a DDA section in there, and it does report everything. But you can find out any of the financials regarding the DDA, because that gets reported monthly at those meetings and prepared by Patricia, if she wants to comment also.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see you had your hand up.
Yeah.
So the DDA acts as a component unit.
Right, that's what they have it
yes.
down here.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's represented on our financial statement and not their own independent financial statement. But the DDA does file a report annually with the state of Michigan with their own financials, and those records are available. And so that's like their own publishing. That's outside of the city's annual financial statements, but they would be collectively contained in ours as a component unit, and they're not very detailed because it is a smaller subset of the city, and it's not part of our it's not part of our overall like general fund or anything like that.
Yeah, because when I looked in here, you're right. The financial information wasn't detailed.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it
But
just.
the report that Nate provides to the state of Michigan has more detail to it.
That
It's
I-
similar, obviously the same numbers, it's just in a more detailed form.
Okay, that I didn't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The other thing, Paul, just wanted to thank you very much for that crossing that's over there on 9 Mile. I want to thank the city. I don't know if everybody on council knew about this, but there was a sidewalk that extended out of Brookfield subdivision over there where Dean Court is, and that sidewalk never got completed. So you stopped just as the property line started for Maple Creek sub, and you just had grass to walk through. So when you put in that crossing, you completed the sidewalk, and I want to tell you, everybody has noticed that sidewalk being completed, and I want to thank you so much for doing that. I hear from people on both sides of 9 Mile how thankful they are that that sidewalk is done. Why? Because now the kids that are coming out of Brookfield can come down there, cross, and now they don't have to worry about the kids. Because what happens sometimes is in the wintertime, if it's really snowy, the kids won't walk in that grass area, they'll walk in the street. So now that you've got a sidewalk, obviously someone's going to have to maintain it. Now the sidewalk, they've actually got someplace to walk. So thank you.
All right, if no one else has anything for Paul, thank you for that update, Paul. We'll move on to council comments today, and we're going to start with Councilmember Mosier this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a lot of thank yous going out today. First to the police, fire, water and sewer, admin, and most of all DPW for their assistance with our pumpkin fest this year. It was, as everybody knows, it was a huge success, but we couldn't do it without the city's help. So there's that. And then thank you to all the volunteers that made it. Couldn't do it without them either. I mean, all these festivals and events in the town do depend on volunteers. And so, and like I said, we just couldn't do it without them. Thank you to all the board members for doing everything that they've done, and especially Kathy Swan. She starts planning this in December, late November, so it takes a good amount of period to get this together, but all the board members really came together and put it together. It was a well thought out plan. With our enhanced footprint this year, it really served the flow of the people walking through. There wasn't a lot of bottlenecks. It was just, it really came out well. We were so good, we ran out of tickets this year. We had to use a few of the last years. We had one time we had 3 different types of tickets out there. I hope people weren't too confused, but that just goes to show how popular this event is. We had so many compliments on what a kid-friendly, really kid-friendly event. And what I like about it is now that we have the entertainment tent, you have kid-friendly during the day, adult-friendly at night, and it was really, really nice. South Lyon Live needs to be thanked as well because they put together the entertainment tent without, the adult beverages that were there, and the entertainment was just phenomenal. I understand they had to stop letting people in because they ran out of room. So it was just all in all a really, really good event. The social district was well used. But the best part of all is the nonprofits. We paid them out over $22,000 to this, and this includes our a lot of Boy Scout, Girl Scout, a lot of charities, pet rescues, school groups. It was just that's where it really shows that this was a really, really good event. So, thank you to everybody that was involved in this. That's all I have.
Great update, Councilmember Mosier. That was great. We'll go to Councilmember Kibble next.
Okay, pretty much Pumpkin Fest related as well. Just wanted to thank the Unified South Lyon lacrosse team for being the muscle down there. A bunch of kids that they can run as long as they want to and do lift heavy things and all that, and they were doing it big time. So that was really cool, and I really liked the orchestration of the event this time because people could end up having, they weren't hair on fire. You had Kathy doing the stuff downtown. The parade people were doing the parade. The South Lyon Live took care of that aspect of it, and so nobody had to end up being completely burned out by the time, even though it's still a long day, and you're still very tired from a year's worth of planning. But nonetheless, if you get some relief for these other things being taken care of properly by other people, you can, you're going to live through the day at least. So I did hear one thing that I'm hoping that this is accurate, but my understanding was the proceeds from the beverages that were sold on Friday went directly to Active Faith. Is that what everyone knows?
It's a little more complicated, but, I can explain it to you later.
Pardon me?
I said it's a little more complicated than that, but I can explain it to you later. It kind of is like that, yes. But a lot of money will be going to Active Faith.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, I just thought the idea that they're not taking their cut off there directly, I think that was very generous of them. So
absolutely.
That's all I have, really. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilmember Kibble. Councilmember Dilg.
Thank you. We had an event called Pumpkin Fest this weekend, last weekend. I quickly, some thank yous, obviously, our police, fire, DPW, so much work that they put in. I don't think that we can go without thanking Phil Weipert, who I really think is the hardest working man in South Lyon. He never stopped moving the whole weekend. So that was, even when the lacrosse boys came in, and the lacrosse guys, when they came, the way they were operating like a machine. They just came in, we were standing there, and they just started taking it down like they had done, all their life. But even then, Phil was still working. I wanted to thank Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter and Representative Jason Morgan for coming and entertaining the troops by doing some of the contest judging. That was really great of them to come and participate. It's nice to see our elected officials showing up in downtown South Lyon. And obviously, I just want to thank South Lyon Live. I don't know if anyone really understands the amount of work that they put in. And this was something that Pumpkin Fest committee had decided they did not want to do. So the South Lyon Live took this on themselves, and they're the ones who brought the live music and beer tent. So they did an amazing job, and they were exhausted, as were the rest of us, I think. So I just wanted to, say thank you to everyone for that, the volunteers and the committee. This was my first year of being on it the full year, and it's really neat to see how much work goes in. I also wanted to thank Judy Keeling for her honesty and her willingness to help, And I know we haven't seen the last of you. You'll be helping out in the city. And obviously, thanks to Linda for continuing to work on the Housing Commission. And then thank you to Kathy from Melissa Slotkin's office and Congresswoman Slotkin also for the great gift of the flag. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dill. Councilmember Hanson.
Just a couple things, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to direct everyone's attention to what's happening right now in the Middle East. This conflict over the past day and a half, couple days here, about 1,200 people so far have passed away. I'm not going to get into the political or religious aspects of it, but I just ask everyone that has a neighbor to be cognizant of it and to give some thought to that. A lot of people are starting to get impacted by this, and there's no clear end in sight right now. So wanted to just bring everyone's attention to that. On a brighter note, thank you to all the volunteers of Pumpkin Fest and to our police and fire, all the organizations that contributed. There were a lot of moving parts, so definitely thank you to the Pumpkin Fest committee. My daughter and I were definitely spent a lot more time than I expected downtown, a lot more sunburned than I was expected to be. My only criticism of the Pumpkin Fest organization, of all the different vendors and everything, was as I'm trying to take my daughter back to Mill Street to home, the giant pumpkin inflatable was right there, and she's like, "But we haven't gone on that one yet." So, but no, thank you so much to all the folks involved. It was a great event. My daughter definitely was very happy, and look forward to many more years to come. So, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ditto on everything regarding Pumpkin Fest. Everybody did an incredible job. Just what a credit to the city that we live with these incredible individuals that think of our city that much that they will give up a weekend and do what they did for a lot of people that came into the city that, never saw South Lyon until they came to Pumpkin Fest. So thank you to Kathy Swan. She's probably one of my most favorite people. Kathy just never stops giving. Kathy does a lot of volunteer work in the city in addition to Pumpkin Fest. And it's not just Kathy. Her daughters are the same way. Just a very, very committed family. So thank you, Kathy Swan, and everybody involved with Pumpkin Fest. Additionally, I also want to say thank you, Judy, for sitting on the Housing Commission. You know what, Judy? I learned over the years how to do my job when I sat on Parks and Recs and Planning Commission. I didn't always have all the answers, and I didn't always know anything. I had to do a little bit of research, ask some questions. You don't have to be a lawyer, and you don't have to have a lot of background. What you need is what you brought to the Housing Commission, a dedication. That's all you really need, is a dedication. But thank you so much, and I'm sure, as Lisa Dilk said, we'll be seeing you around again. Love to have you back on another commission, and don't be afraid. It's no big deal. We all work together. So there's that. I do want to remind everybody about the downtown trick-or-treat coming up. That's one of my favorite events. I love October. I'm going to be a judge in the Paw Parade, so I can hardly wait for that because that's always good. I was going to bring in my dog in the contest, but I thought there would be a conflict of interest because I might have to vote for her. So I will not be bringing my dog into that contest. And I just want to remind everybody on October 16th at the South Lyon Hotel, there's going to be, it's called the Ghost Story Dinner, $20 fee. That's coming up on, I believe it's Monday, October 16th. And last, with respect to the Middle East, God gives us a reason every day to get on our knees and be thankful for something. We should be thankful we live in this country, be thankful that we are Americans. We should also be thankful that we don't have to worry about being pulled out of our homes tonight, that the families and small children aren't being murdered and killed as what is happening. This is horrible. It's a tragedy. And all I can say is pray for peace. That's what we need to do. We pray for peace. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. Councilmember Kennedy.
Just following on with one of the things Councilmember Mosier mentioned is regarding the nonprofits. I want to remind everyone that this Saturday and Sunday, Furry Friends Rescue will be collecting returnable bottles and cans in the Pet Supplies Plus parking lot from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. each day. So it's time to clean out the basement and garage and drop those off this weekend and help this organization continue their worthwhile efforts. And also this Saturday, October 14th, will be the last Young Entrepreneur event presented by the Kensington Valley Citizen Organization. These young folks will have their tents set up in the grass area by South Lyon Big Coffee. So stop by and see them from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. and help these young entrepreneurs get a start in business. They'll certainly appreciate your support. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, Pumpkin Fest, you know, I won't rehash everything, but it was a great day. Incredible weather. It was great to see everyone downtown. It was everything you could ever hope for an event in your community. It was great. So great to see everyone down there. Kind of kicks off that fall type weather that we've seen kind of come in this week. And so, you know, with that kind of in mind, if you haven't been able to make it out to any of the fall sports for the high school kids, they got a couple weeks left. I know over at South Lyon, they have the homecoming game this Friday against Waterford Kettering. And if you can't make that, because the weather's looking a little rough later in the week, try to make next week's game. It'll be South Lyon East over at the Jungle. It's an incredible atmosphere. The kids are really into it. It's usually a great turnout. You know, so hopefully the weather will be decent. So that'll be a week from Friday. Definitely keep your eyes peeled for all the kids on homecoming this weekend. And with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Move to adjourn.
Have a great night, all.